Awesome. 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Start with roll call. Margot Knippel, I am here. Tyler Lane. Lauren Kelly. Gary Nelson.
Here.
Tommy Holman.
Here.
Tommy Smith.
Here.
Lauren Dorchowski.
Here.
Item number 2, review and approval of minutes from the June 13th, 2023 meeting. Everybody had the opportunity to see those minutes. Changes, corrections.
And I do need to make a change. You had messaged me about something about Tyler on it.
Yeah, it doesn't list that Tyler was present.
Yeah, so I just need to make that change and I can go do it.
Any other changes? So with that change added in, do I have a motion for approval? Okay, Arlen, I see the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tommy, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. New business, discussion of the draft amendment to the Webster County zoning ordinance, transportation corridor overlay zoning district requirements. Jeff, are you starting with a presentation?
Yep.
Or is it?
I am.
Okay.
I got everything. So I did receive a draft of the regulations in the packet. Just go ahead and disregard those. I've been working on this and modifying this a little bit. So I'll explain some of the changes that I had to clean up. Yeah, make sure MSA gets one. Just that way. So the comprehensive plan itself has been through a couple of public, it's not quite adopted yet by the Board of Supervisors. It's been through a couple rounds of public hearings, and MSA has been forced with a task to kind of clean up a few things. Nothing substantial or substantive, but just some maps and stuff. We want some more clarity and stuff like that. And we're looking at adoption of this coming the end of the month. So, this component here is right on task to follow that approval. And as you're aware, we're dealing with 9 overlay zoning districts, 9 areas that we've come up with here. And we have 3 overlay zones. One of the changes was this reference here in your packet, reference 4 zones. This obviously, we only have 3 zones. So we went back and when you look at the table in here, that's been revised, and we had to drop the one that was, I think was another hybrid zone that was in here that I had to take out. So now we're consistent. We have commercial, general industrial, and general industrial. So I'm just going to go through this as is and discuss what the intent is and how everything's going to play out here. So obviously we've identified these zones. If anybody, and we'll talk more in depth about these, if anybody proposes to do any development in there, they're required to rezone. And so either commercial, general industrial, commercial/general industrial. It's got to be compatible or consistent with those overlay zones. And that's why we have the matrix here. So when they come forth with that development request, and I'll talk about, there are some exemptions. People that have single family homes and farms, they can, the way it's written here, they can add on to their farms. You don't want, people have the right to farm in Iowa. We're not going to tell them to stop farming and wait for development to come. Go ahead if you have to put up an outbuilding or whatever in these zones. And I went back and looked at these zones a little bit closely, and there's probably about 10 farmsteads total of all these. There's not a lot, So more so down in Gowrie, some up in the northern part of the county on 169. That's where most of them are. So, they have the right to go ahead and expand out of their single family home and so forth. But we can talk more about that. So anyway, someone's proposing development in here. They're required to fill out a zoning application and submit their site plan, building elevation, landscape plans, screening, fencing materials, all their exterior signage components. It's a full review of the package so that we make sure that we're getting compatible development. And that was the whole purpose of this. If somebody could come in off the street put up a metal building with no architectural interest and it looks like crap along a major corridor where you got, 10,000 trips going on each day. And that's why we want to make sure that, through the planning and zone, through staff and the planning and zoning commission, that there's another level of review and that there's consistent review of the product when it comes through. And we'll talk more about this. We didn't want to put real strict restrictions on there, but we wanted to have something in place so that we have at least some type of a minimum standard. We don't want to prohibit economic development. We really want people to come. We want to make sure, we have someone that's decent along the corridor. So what we define here are the 3 zoning overlay districts and their permitted uses and their permitted accessory uses. And along with, as we go to page 4, and we get into more of that. If you have questions about those uses, the minimum district requirements, and if someone was to go ahead and develop how many acres they need minimally, how much road frontage they need, etc. This is kind of consistent with all our other zoning district requirements. And now under performance standards in the overlay districts, so basically, if there's any new development, as I mentioned, you have to do a rezoning request. Or if there's a building addition that exceeds 25% of the existing building in the overlay zoning district, they're required to comply with these standards. So existing single-family residence and agricultural buildings shall be allowed to continue to operate and expand and shall not be subject to the overlay district requirements. So they're exempt. So then we have the building design standards. Again, as part of their package, if somebody's coming in with something new, you want to make sure that they identify the materials that they're using, provide the paint samples that they're using so that it's nothing too outrageous. Obviously, they'll give us the building elevations of all sides. There's an articulation at the front to make sure we don't have a flat facade, that there's at least a minimum offset. The overhead door shall be located on the front facade visible from the public right of ways. We don't want that look. All buildings that are adjacent to public right of ways should use similar building materials. So if you have a corner lot, that front elevation should be kind of emulating that side elevation for consistency. And look, it's because as you look along the street frontage, you want your more attractive elevations. All trash refuse enclosures shall be located in the rear of the building and screened. So yeah, we get into parking and loading. Obviously, they have to comply with Article 6 of the zoning ordinance in terms of what's required, in terms of number of parking stalls and loading zones. It does talk about joint access if they want to share a driveway, and that makes sense. So we limit the number of curb cuts on possibly a busy road. And then we go ahead and get into landscaping requirements, which are real minimal. At least we have something here. 1 shade tree for every 60 lineal feet of road frontage that's adjacent to a public road. We want a pedestrian landscape zone, shrubs in front of a building, between the building and the parking lot, really to soften up the look of that building. And then terminal islands at the end of parking stalls, where they can put a tree. Again, instead of having a sea of parking, you're going to have at least some aesthetic enhancement there with a few trees. Lighting is standard. We want them to also, as part of their whole package, to show us, what type of exterior lighting they're going to be doing. Hopefully, it's downcast. It's not going to cause any issues with adjacent properties, and they're going to be a good neighbor about that. So signage, it basically allows 1 ground monument per street frontage. If you have a corner lot, you could have 2. Again, we wanted to make sure that height was high enough, because along some of these corridors, 35 feet, minimal setback, 100 square foot of signage. Wanted to limit their signage. They could have it on the wall and only 1 sign. We just don't want to. Want to make sure it's tastefully done, and they don't sit there and populate the property with signage. Just limit it to a number and so forth. And we can talk about that. So there's your wall sign, 1.5 square feet per lineal feet of building. for your maximum size, and they can have a real estate sign if need be to market any type of development. So, these are drafts, and MSA has had the opportunity to look at them too. We're working with us on this to get this implemented, and we want your comments. That's why I think it's always best we move forth with a discussion on this before we do public hearing, to see if there's anything you'd like to see in here, or anything you want to amend, or something you don't agree with, or whatever. But again, I think we have to be a little bit careful on being too stringent on architectural materials, and it would be nice to have a minimum requirement for brick or something on the front of the building, but you just gotta be a little bit careful. I mean, I think when something comes through to you architecturally, you're gonna look at all those materials and say, hey, this corrugated metal is just not cutting it, and then after you prove one or two, you're gonna have that history, and you're gonna be able to follow that and say, this is what we did on this building. We don't like this look or whatever. So you're basically going to be the design review or the architectural review committee. Stuff comes in with your recommendation, along with staff that will move forward to the board of supervisors on any type of new development. So with that, I'll stop talking. And do you have any questions?
It's MSA. The fact that we have all the different zones, the first person to the zone is Bill, because kind of set the standard maybe for that zone. And
For the county, actually,
Well,
too.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what type of building it is. Yeah, commercial, industrial is going to have a different commercial building. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it could be different for the different zones depending on.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
It could
think
be.
both sides.
Yeah. You want to give the architect, a lot of flexibility in their design and let them be creative. And then also the materials out there, they change all the time from decade to decade. And, there's some attractive stuff out there. Yeah, there's some unattractive stuff too, so, and color has a lot to do with it. We don't want anything, in my opinion, anything red or yellow that's going to, bring attention, I think, the sign itself, the allowance for giving signage, like for instance, Kevin Stump at the travel center, he wants to go up a little bit higher. And this provision in here would allow you to do that. He was restricted only. You can see his mounted up a little bit. He has I think he's allowed to go up to like 10 feet. He goes, I wish I could go a little bit higher. So we'll just hold on. We might be able to get some standards changed there. So, but still hold them, signage is I hate dealing with it, to be honest with you. It's to me, it's a lot, it has to do with a lot with aesthetics,
Does the DOT have the opportunity to make comment along?
No, not necessarily. If it's in the right of way, but we're going to be out of the right of way, so we're going to be on property. We don't allow anything to be placed in the right of way. So, yeah.
So where does like grain elevators fall under this? Because you're gonna have all types of architecture there.
Yeah, like okay, for like a grain elevator. Well, so the maximum height here is 100 feet for a building. Yeah, they would have to. That's an ag building also, and one can make the argument that ag buildings are exempt. So. I mean, the worst case scenario is that they have to do a variance, but the hardship criteria they're going to be able to meet. But, I mean, if you want something in there on ag buildings, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean,
How close are we then if we do that to ag or ag industrial? So, I mean, I guess in my mind, I'm thinking that the ag industrial, was set up as a separate zone for us, kind of for some of the reasons that Arlen's bringing up. um, because of the structures, traffic patterns, those kinds of things. Is that something we would want to have? I mean, and it's up to you guys, you know.
If you want to increase the height, I have no problem increasing the height. We're not going to see a lot of buildings being built. Going to cause a problem with height in this county. But, you know, you could see like a big industrial manufacturer coming out there wanting to go in and like see them.
Yeah.
Certain parts of their buildings, you know, because they're manufacturing something or, you know, it could be.
I gotta be careful, I work for the co-op, but I'm thinking what we're doing in long term.
Yeah.
We're building green spaces. Now people are getting fed up with dust, getting fed up with that type of stuff. The co-ops doing it in different parts of Iowa now, building green spaces. Look at Landis right now, they bought that by Old Farm A. So, you know what's gonna happen there too. So, that's where I'm just trying to come from there, there's
I believe everything that everything would have to be reviewed by them. I think that all falls in there for over a lot of it. It's not too
Where they purchase that should be.
good. Yeah, and they'll have to get clearance through them. So I have no problem, you know, I mean, that makes sense industrial wise and I can see a lot of commercial buildings. I mean,
again, I know it's not in Webster County, but Landis is already looking at building on Shelby down between Peyton and Boxholm. They bought 40 acres there already at first.
okay.
And everyone who's already in the zones is grandfathered in for their signage and stuff, or will they have to change it?
No, they're all grandfathered. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we don't want to interrupt or interfere with what people are doing out there now. You know, yeah, leave them alone. I mean, nobody's complaining. Leave them alone. You know, so.
One of the things that Jeff and I talked about was the future use of the possibility of, you know, if you have, you know, 2, 3, 4 businesses within one of our zones, the possibility of a frontage road. Do you have any more thoughts on that?
That would be proposed obviously by a developer. I mean, yeah, you may have someone come in. So what's going to happen is, I mean, the most likely scenario is you're going to have somebody come in first and build a road that comes in. And then if it's very attractive and they see that, okay, we're going to have spin-off businesses or whatever right next door, and they're going to be proposed, then that might be the time to say, hey, why don't we just go ahead and tie in, you know, to their parking lot and then do a frontage road. And, you know, that can be easily done too. And if that property is planned accordingly in terms of where their parking is and where their drive aisles are and so forth. So, yeah, there's a way to do it, you know, but that's how it's going to happen. It's the first one have to get developed with their own access to the road. And then it only makes sense because, yeah, then you would limit because, you know, you might have a restaurant or whatever where you're going to have a high number of, you know, you'll have a higher number of traffic. So, yeah, you'll want a frontage road and, you know, one access point in and out, you know, to that road instead of multiple ones, which is going to cost chaos. So, yeah, the developer, you know, would have to work with the developer to have that provided. And it only makes sense that they would provide that again, so that they don't have all those access points and cause issues or problems. Yeah. For like Stump is a good example. He's got room to the west. You don't explain. There's no way you could tie into 20, but you could, you know, run a road back there behind the business, and then access that, you know, whatever you're going to propose back there, maybe a small hotel or whatever. Come back out on the road.
And that makes sense in that spot. And I guess for me, the one spot that I keep thinking of is Highway 7. And was it up there west of Barnum? You know, with the truck traffic, you know, the elevator right there close, people hauling to the ag cars, that kind of thing. And I mean, I think it's a good place. And I think it was, you know, a well-chosen spot for an overlay zone. But, I mean, I'd love to see a gas station going there or something like that. my concern is that a gas station goes in and then something else goes in and then you got traffic going in and out here and then traffic going in and out here. And you've got school buses, you know, the Barnum School to Manson, that traffic. And so that was one of the things that Jeff and I talked about as far as development gets going, maybe we should consider.
Well, that's what's good is, I mean, everything has to go through that rezoning with their package and would have to come through you guys to take a look at it, you know. And so, you know, they'd have to show how they're accessing the property. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, it's something that you're right, it'd be poor planning and something to go and see.
Well,
You know?
the thing, I like the overlay district idea, and I know this is the revised one. But when you look at the combination, and Jeff and I talked a little bit about this. If you look at the combination of the permitted uses, it's like we've taken everything and kind of said, all of these things are possible here. But when you really start looking at all of these uses and you think about the traffic patterns for all of these uses, my hope is that you can get that they're maybe going to be kind of developed. I don't want to say a theme, but you know, if you have a gas station, then okay, great, gas station comes into one of these areas, then we maybe get some of those things that go along with the gas station. But when you look at permitted principal uses for the commercial general industrial overlay zone, and you put personal services, including beauty services, childcare, and then you put the manufacture of materials and ag and production and processing, storage and warehousing. Those are very different industries with very different traffic patterns. And we're saying it's going to be okay to put these things together in an overlay zone. That's why I guess I just want everybody here to really give that some thought.
I think a lot of it, you know, you're right, you're gonna have different, it's possible you could have different uses that, I don't know if the words may not be compatible. I don't know if they might be, okay, let's say they're not compatible. They have nothing to do with one. You know, a gas station might have something to do with a restaurant because you get gas, you know, and you go over and have dinner or I don't know, whatever, as opposed to something, but the key, I think, is the aesthetics of how it looks and everything. I mean, you can have a business, how it operates, and as long as all the backside stuff is where it's supposed to be, and it's out of sight, out of mind, and the front elevation and the sides present itself well, and it's parking lot, it's clean. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to be real careful with those, you know, if we do get something that, you know, wants to come in next to something that, I hate to use the word incompatible, but you know, it's not, you know, but we got to make sure that how can we make it look compatible? Or, you know, what can we do? And that's why, you know, we really want to limit the signage because, you know, stuff like that and how tastefully that's done and all that kind of stuff. So it all comes together because you're right. I mean, you got all these people, it's not only the, you know, it's the county itself and you got, you know, the traveling public. These are all nice major photos and people looking at this stuff. That was the whole reason to adopt some type of standard in there, just to make sure that, you know, we're they're looking at something that's, you know, decently attractive. But we don't have any standards on there right now. I mean, Kevin Stump he had to go through the rezoning. So that's what kind of made him. It's like, you know what, Kevin, you're going to go through the rezoning and things are going to get scrutinized. So you better come up with something decent, you know. So in which he did, you know, we agree or disagree. You know? And so. Yeah, that's the beauty of it all. Is we have, you know, that requirement that you have to rezone, you know, before you do any development. That makes it come all the way through us and goes through us, you know, more scrutiny and so forth. So.
Well, the ones that accessibility. So what we could do is add on to this ordinance this couple of sections to include, for example, what is both for in my web access
That makes it more. With that one.
Jeff brings up a good point with the travel sector. When it was a travel center, obviously the neighbors and stuff, really excited for it. But then when word came out that it was going to be the travel center and a big warehouse center, that's when the real public safety issues, I think, started to come up. And people were really concerned about those sorts of traffic patterns. So like I said, just reviewing this material, look at it's almost like it's to me, Jeff, it's like I know we want to allow all these, it's great. It's like we're just taking zoning and saying the zoning plus just throw everything all together in one. But
Well,
I like your idea. of
Yeah,
doing-
that's that commercial industrial overlay area, That's the one where, you got everything thrown together.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do, is we're kind of trying to make it so that we can do that in these certain areas where we could say, not that it's a free for all, but we can say, look, folks, this is a high traffic area. This is the place you want to put your business. My concerns are, like I said, just the safety of some of those together. But I like your idea of maybe separating, having some separations.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not sure who that person is that's gonna wanna put the daycare right next to them. But things like that are happening where you've got employees that are going to work and, hey, my daycare's right here. I wanna work there because I can take my kid and drop my kid off the daycare here. So, I mean, that's happening a lot. I mean, that's a good idea.
it makes me be depending on what. It's like, okay. So along with that, if they're not. If we've got a problem. If there is. That's something.
No, they would have to landscape it. I understand what you're saying. I just don't feel that it's appropriate to put the developer and the engineer, the architect, or the site planner to show something that's far-fetched in the future. This is how it could develop. It's not gonna develop. Lots of that developing like that. They want to, if they're gonna look at, and that's their right. The ideal situation is they carve out what they would need, 3 acres, but then you might have a 10-acre piece, and you're right, they're only developing, well, the stumping is only developing a portion of it, So, yeah, I know what you're saying. I disagree with that, I mean, it's more work for them and what's it to show them. Realistically, it's probably not going to be built. Show us your landscape plan, show this is vacant. Yeah, we want to know how it's going to be maintained. Is this going to be left to be farmed or what, So, yeah, it's going to be developed down the road and they'll have to come back in. And you're right, maybe you only give them the rezoning on the portion of that so that when the rest comes in, it's got to be rezoned. Okay, now we know how's this going to tie in? We wouldn't give them the full entitlements on that full portion. So that's the way to tackle that. One thing we'll want to add in here, because you could bring it up and it's important, is the requirement of that traffic impact study, so that they can address, there's going to be additional turn lanes required, and stuff like that, or warrants any signals or anything like that. So we'll get that in there, as part of the requirement that they address that traffic. Traffic is all. I should have caught that in the first place. That's always one of the first concerns of any development is traffic, regardless, what it is. So
Traffic is one of the reasons we're doing it. Traffic is a driver, I think,
Yeah.
here.
plus, and especially when you look at something being built on along Highway 7, you know what I mean? It's going to be big, and it's like, okay, how are these trucks going to turn in? How are they going, is there going to be dedicated turn lanes and so forth? So, all that needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the fact that, like I said, that's kind of why we're doing this, is that because we're wanting to catch that good traffic flow in these areas, but at the same time, we don't want it to become, you know, a safety issue. Yes. But I mean, so just, what do you think about what she's proposing that?
Oh, no, there's some like, other things she brought up that are interesting. I mean, if you guys agree, I mean, she could provide language for you guys to take a look at. And, you know, what we could do is add this to it and underline it, put it back in here, and you can review it and say yes or no, or modify it or whatever. So that's a good idea. She put up. Because I mean, they've been through this song and dance with other areas throughout the state. So.
Trying to think of my head, but it's kind of development, out and like that. It's like the cases here, and then there's gas station. If you're stopping at them, they're great. If you're not, you know, I mean, it's a change in the traffic pattern. You know, you're going along, and all of a sudden there's development. So in an area where you don't necessarily are expecting it, and the other area I pointed out to Jeff was on Highway 30 going west out of Ames, and all the businesses.
Oh,
Well, further west from Jack's, where
Heartland
yeah,
stuff.
okay, yeah, some of the places they come back with the front road. Western Edge, that spot. And I mean, my opinion on it, they probably could have done a better job of making it look more attractive. Because it really does look all that attractive. But that's what I guess those are the kind of places that I think about when I think about how we're adding this to our plan. So, and one of the questions that I had, Jeff, so I talked about rear lighting. We talked about rear lighting since these were going to be strips along. They're not going to be, you know, a big rezoned area. It's going to be a rezoned strip. So one of my concerns was rear lighting for any neighbors.
Oh, yeah, no, lighting plans required. They got to show the foot candles to make sure that nothing to the property lines are not impacting any properties. We encourage the cast down lighting, stuff like that. Yeah. So. But yeah, we're in no hurry to get this to the board. I mean, we'd like, so it's good just for us to take our time, look at it. I mean, you know, there'll be amendments to this, I'm sure, over the years, you know. I mean, there always is this things change, but you know, you're not going to get it perfect, but you know, we want to make sure that we have our bases covered so that when our first development comes in, that we do have, you know, some decent standards to go by, making sure we're getting the type of development we want along these corridors. So.
More thoughts on storage, self-storage. Since we're allowing wholesale trade storage warehousing, self-storage units.
Those would be your self-storage units for wherever you're reading that. What's that on the industrial?
It's in, I think we're gonna follow them. In the commercial.
Commercial, yeah. Mhm.
Commercial, and then it's the commercial general.
And that's okay. I mean, again, it's just about how you design it, how you lay it out, and how it looks. I mean, there's some real attractive self-storage buildings. I mean, I'm talking big ones and, you know, big cities and so forth, but you know, we see along Highway 20 right now, you see some storage and these lay down yards and right wide out in the open, you know, we don't want that. You know, we want, if they're going to go ahead and do this, yeah, we want it indoor. And if you're going to have storage, make sure it's in the back, make sure it's screened so that, you know, it's definitely not visible to neighbors and so forth. So there's a way to do it aesthetically. And even in the commercial areas, it's actually more of a commercial than a light industrial use nowadays. You know, I say self-storage. Yeah, you're right. They do want to accommodate their boats, their RVs, but we got to make sure there's proper placement in the property. You
my concern is on an overlay zone. How many of those would you permit? How many of those would you allow? One for overlay zone, two? I don't want to have a whole
No,
overlay zone and nothing but storage units.
I've never seen a restriction.
I mean,
I would think that,
I'm
there'd have to be
just out
one,
to get everybody
there'd have
else.
to be one hell of a market to have that happen, you know,
Well,
I mean,
Yeah,
but yeah, you may get one. I mean, I'll be the first to say competition is good, you know, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen a zoning ordinance regulate the number of certain types of businesses, except for adult uses, you know, where they don't want them and stuff like that, but it's different. But,
I guess I just threw that out because I wanted to see the board, you know, what anyone
Yeah.
else thought about that.
I think the market would probably play itself out there where, you know, crazy things do happen, you know. You know, I mean,
That's not it. As far as, I don't know, place.
No, I. Definitely. There's a lot of things.
I want to put another one up.
I had mentioned to Jeff driving back from Las Vegas, driving down to New Mexico and stuff, and just to bring us close to some. Self-storage, you know, self-storage. And I imagine because it's drier down there. That's built for self-storage. I don't know, but it's just like, oh my goodness, there's another self-storage unit too. It's like, oh, here's another one. And it just, it's not a real, you know, I mean,
I think,
it's not good aesthetic. It's just not.
I think it's even, it's a lot more than household goods nowadays. It's commercial and industrial companies that are, you know, finding cheaper to store off site as opposed to putting it on their site nowadays. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's the case, but
I mean, just a number of people that I know that have a home in town or something that also rent a storage unit. You know, I'm not talking people that are traveling in between business and jobs or homes and like that. They just live here and they don't have room for their stuff and they rent a storage unit.
I was watching Folders too much that show.
No, I don't.
No, you're right. I mean, I'm not arguing. Disagree. Yeah, it's kind of eye-opening.
So one thing bringing that up, so I've seen, you know, like by Cornville, Iowa City, they got like that whole industrial park out on the east side where they're basically, you know, contractors can, the guy puts up a 200-foot machine shed and the guy rents 40 feet of it. Now, is that gonna be, how can that be signed? Or, you know, this contractor might have 40 feet, this business might have 40 feet of that building. That's something that I would like to see more of because more guys would utilize stuff like that. I don't know, but signage wise, are you talking per business, per building?
So, yeah, they're guaranteed, the way it's written is 1.5 square feet per lineal feet of, that has to be redefined. You know, that'd be like the frontage of the building. So,
That per business or if you have one.
Yeah, I know what he's saying.
200-foot building, 5 business.
those are tenant signs, you're right. Yeah. I mean, this, the way it's written right now is more for the single user. I mean, you could take that whole allowance they get, so let's say they have 300 feet of frontage there, it's, okay, you get 400 feet. Let's divide it up, you know, amongst all your tenants, and that's what you get. So when you come in,
I can just see more of that happening, guys building a building, share it.
yeah.
Part of the building is right there.
Oh, that's common, kind of what they do. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It happens. Contractor shops, so to speak, you know.
And people, they don't need their own whole building, but yeah, they gotta have a place.
Yeah. You'll get them all set up and lease them all out, especially if there's a demand, yeah. Mhm.
The fact that you're putting, you know, some sort of building standards on. Hopefully that, they're gonna have, but it's gonna have to be a nice looking building to do it. It's not gonna be just a. Building or something, it's gonna have to be a nice looking place.
And that's the whole thing, overhead doors, you can't have them facing the road, then they let you face them this way, so you're gonna have signage going this way, you know, if your road's here, you're
Yeah.
telling me you can't have an overhead door this
Facing
way.
the road, yeah, so yeah, well, you have a nice front facade, with
Right.
your signage, yeah.
Right,
But yeah, you can, okay, I see, you got your doors along, yeah,
yep,
Yeah.
but your main signs for those are still gonna be out on the frontage road, because that guy's gonna wanna know what his business is.
so yeah, so once you come off that road and you drive back in there, you're not gonna need your signage, size of signage is not gonna be that big because you're up on it, so. Yeah. Work on the sign, yeah, I mean, we wanted to have signage for each tenant and so forth, so I'll take a look at that. So I'm being a little careful, like, I'm just not a big fan on signage, period.
The other thing that we talked about briefly was, we don't have non-permitted uses.
It's not listed, it's not permitted.
We're not gonna come right out.
They'd have to come in and make an amendment, you know, propose an amendment to allow it. The other thing is, Margot, is that, so. For instance, on page 3, number 20. Again, as any use interpreted by the zoning administrator to be similar in conformance. So they still have to go through the rezoning, it would still come through you. Okay, they're proposing this use, guys, in this building. This is how I feel it's compatible. You agree with me or disagree with me? This goes through the process and, you know, vote it up or vote it down, you know, so. As opposed to coming back and amending this, the one thing they could do is come back and propose an amendment. If they don't feel comfortable that, you know, they're not gonna get the approval on that type of use, as they go through the process. So,
So with what we have listed for permitted principal uses, with the commercial. Do you see any argument or fight or lawsuit or anything for somebody who wants to bring in a adult business?
no, because we allow them, we allow them,
You could
another,
argue that it's
we
retail.
allow them in other zoning districts. It's still real restricted. So as long as we allow them somewhere else in the county. Yeah, which are very difficult for them to put one in. And we're covered. Yeah, you can't discriminate a use. Remember, this was only one component. We have all those other zoning districts. So,
And
you know,
usually that's listed in a non-permitted section,
can be,
adult.
can't
That's
be,
what-
well, yeah, it can be if you want to. If it's not listed, typically it's not allowed. So you don't see it, yeah, it's not allowed. That's just the way the practice is, yeah.
A lot of arguments.
Yeah,
And, you
Basically,
know,
it's covered. It's not in
yeah,
there.
it's
You can
not in
say
there. Oh, yeah, if
in
it's not,
there.
you know, it's not there. It's not, you know, you don't see it there. So it's like, okay. Go, you have to amend the code. Good luck with that. So, I mean, and I think we allow it. I don't know, I think we allow by conditional use in the industrial district. And there's all kinds of
Yeah.
separation requirements. Good luck. You know.
well, and that's why I'm asking about it, because this is, you know, commercial general industrial overlay. And if we're allowing it in general industrial with even with requirements, do we need to go so far as to say it as a non-permitted use on the overlay? I don't know.
It's not listed.
If I'm selling video.
Because it's
tapes,
like, it's not
I'm
listed, it's
retail.
not listed in commercial zoning district right now. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, so, yeah. It's not allowed, period. So. I think there are some sections, you know, if you look at those zoning ordinance, I think we have listed some uses that are not allowed, in some zoning districts, Margot.
Yeah,
But not all of them, you know. When they did that,
industrial is. It's a permitted under industrial. Establishments, and yeah, there are quite a few restrictions on it, but. The fact that, like I said, this is a commercial / general industrial. Is somebody gonna misinterpret that, I guess? And say, well, wait a minute, you know, I'm selling adult videotapes on retail. You allow that in this, what's the difference?
well, this is the overlay. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
overlay. That's straight zoning, yeah, the straight zoning, this is the overlay. So, overlay. No, no. Neither do we don't have
But
that an
you
issue
see
either.
where if I'm the person who's wanting to put up the adult bookstore, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna take code and I'm gonna say, well, you know, how come you guys are allowing them in industrial, but this industrial overlay is not? You know,
Overlay with the something that's still, should be still allowed, but without a big, overlay.
I'm not sure we have this conversation.
No, that's good, yeah.
We want to cover all of it. Yes, yes, I definitely want to cover our data. I mean, you know, you put one of those in and you just kind of destroy the opportunities for everything else. And I've seen, you know, up in, I know where only adult bookstores are, but up in Mason City, you can make a city, you can make a Fairway, right outside of Rochester, right off Interstate. Let's see. You know, I think of the one in Mason City that at that time, that was probably considered way out, you know, and now that whole stretch is practically all developed. So, you know, yeah. And that's what I'm trying to not do is it's like, we don't want, we almost to the point where I'd almost feel better if we just said, this is an opportunity piece. I don't know what everybody else thinks about that, but so it's not an issue.
No, it's not. I mean, even look at our zoning, our residential districts. We want to go in a residential district. We don't have anything that says, you know, we don't have anything that says not permitted in those uses. It's not gonna go there. There's no way to fit it in there. There's no way to fit it in here either. So yeah, it's the same, you know. No, we don't want that. No, we don't want that.
Business are so smaller.
And so, yeah, you know, there was some thought about, you know, possibly putting in some requirements on, you know, a certain percentage being block or brick on the front, 25%. And, you know, I don't know what your guys' thoughts on that. It's just like, to me, we don't want to prohibit, you know, development and the cost, but, you know, the whole idea is that we want it to look attractive. We want to give the flexibility to the architect. Yeah, if they come in and utilize block or brick in certain ways, that's cool and how they do it. I think you can make a building look very attractive without using brick or block, depending on the types of materials. So again, just giving that architect flexibility, you know, and they're going to have to come through you guys for the review, and you know, we're okay with that look that they're proposing, and we're going to be living with, you know.
So we still got the options, like we make this look a little bit better.
Oh, exactly. Come back. We're
Wanna
gonna
add brick to
we're
it.
gonna table this, you know, exactly. Come back and show us.
Instead of writing it in,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
you know, instead of having a whole nother page or everything
Yes,
like that,
yeah,
the
yeah.
requirements. Let the architect design it, they have to back and redesign it a little bit,
yeah.
so it looks good for the county.
I started getting into looking at some of the cities and counties and their requirements. They're very, very minimalistic, you know. What they, you know. It's not-
Just developers, yeah.
What you could do, and this is the same like you're talking about, what I was used to when I was working down in Coral Springs are encouraged materials, prohibited materials. That's what, you know, you have your list of what's encouraged and what's definitely prohibited. The industry changes over time too, you know, I mean, that's the problem. So, I mean, yeah, you know, we know in our minds what we don't want to see, you know. There are some materials that can look attractive, depends on how they're used and where they're used. And so again, I think we want to, that's what the architect's for, is to let them use their imagination and come up with something that's, you know, they feel is attractive, and let, you know, if we're not happy with it, like you said, we just tell them to come back, redesign it.
Less restriction is better. If you have the safety net of saying, you gotta tweak this a little here and there. Not
Yeah.
tie their hands in
Yeah.
the beginning, but also not.
Like this whole side is a blank side, get some windows there, do a few things here and there. Show some trim aspects, so.
Some of the different, codes that I looked up that were so restrictive to the point of showing you where your placement of logos could be. And I mean, it's just crazy. I got bored. I mean, I don't want to do that. I want somebody to just go, oh yeah, let's just go here. And just making a list of those doesn't seem good. I mean, it doesn't seem positive. And then we kind of restrict ourselves to, like you said, if somebody comes in with a really great design using a material that was on our no list, I don't want to, that just like I said, that kind of dates us.
Building materials change every year.
Yeah.
Something new, every design. So why limit it?
Okay, floor in New Cross Street. Where you work. Concrete floor, where they come in and that was just concrete floor. Absolutely beautiful. After sunset, wasn't able to do that.
It looks like different fields.
Oh, yeah, it's works. I guess it's real nicely now.
Don't have anything else. What I'll do is I'll make an coordinate with MSA. MSA might have a few other things they want to kind of tweak or add to it. We'll come back with an underlying version of what's been added, and then you guys can take a look at it and say, okay, yes or no. We'll have another discussion on it. I'm in no hurry to get this, I can't remember in a hurry, don't know what this, but I haven't been getting you other pushback from other board of supervisors, but this is important for us to take our time on and try to get it as best as we can as we move forward. So
You guys don't have a bunch of businesses or something trying to come into these to get stuff in right now. You know, there's that.
well, there's a couple. Yeah, well, there's one that's moving ahead for sure. They're going to beat this, but I'm going to get them to the point where it's going to be attractive, and they're going to basically comply with. They have no problem complying with all these requirements. So I said that's good. Show me what you got, and it's going to be done. And it's smaller in nature, it's nothing big, but yeah. And then of course we got stuff going out there at the industrial park. They're always meeting with people, but big businesses, and who knows what's going to come to fruition out there. But yeah, they'd be subject to these requirements. That's their problems. It's met with a couple of big industries and made them aware that this is going through it and so forth. No, they're just still gonna have to go through a rezoning. Yeah. They're not gonna try to beat this, so. This is long range stuff. Yeah. Next month. Schedule the public hearing in October. By that time, the comprehensive plan will be adopted. So forth, so. It's a good thing, so.
And there's Jeff, that's all we had on new business. I'm going to. Robert, any comments you want to make?
Well, come on, here. That's the. Where we stand. We just have to use the one are all for. we're getting weekly visits from Twin Rivers Exploration and hydrogen. You know, you know, stop it. Yeah. So, I mean, all I can do is tell you what I've heard, and it really hasn't been much. And I'm straight up honest. I don't hide anything. Invenergy contacted me maybe 3 weeks ago. They said, we don't have a project. That's what they told me. It's like, remember, they're only one. I think there's other, yeah, there's other ones out there. We're not, you know, and it seemed like they were very active and participating. Invenergy was. And I didn't ask why. And I said, okay, thanks for letting me know. And they just wanted to appreciate all the efforts that staff and P&Z and the board went through and getting that amendment done. But who knows? Maybe tomorrow they've changed their mind. You know, we don't know. But that was 3 weeks ago. They said we don't have a project anymore. It's like, okay. So I don't know what they're, you know, I know they were trying to sign up leases. I don't know if they're with Invenergy or somebody else, but that's all I have. And then in terms of the hydrogen or whatever, yeah, I don't know what they're doing out there with the, you know, the carbon and pipelines and all that stuff that's permitted as long as they stay on a property. You know, that's a private issue between farmers out there. Yeah, and that's a hearing with, is that a state hearing or something? Iowa Utilities Board, yep, state, yep. Okay. Yeah, there are, yeah. It's a whole different ballgame than it was 30, 40 years ago out there. It's just, it's crazy. And I do feel sorry for the farmer, you know, I mean, it's just, I know, then they're throwing it down your throat, basically. It's like, okay, you know, that's gotta be tough. I mean. Same thing happened. Clean light energy. Let's propose, mainly let's propose going right through. North. How they got completely dropped it, that's coming from Kansas. Okay. Clean line was take all the energy, the turbine energy from Northwest Iowa and send it to Chicago where it's going to be up. Another line. It was considered an effort by many, and that organization still going. They did end up on. These lines have been American proposing the in line with double. It was going to go right. There's two lines. One is going right north of the house, and the other one's up further by Spencer area. That's where they worked on it.
Drilling those, that, I mean, you don't have any. What they're doing out there, like I said, when I went out and looked at it, those were the only two issues I could really. Public safety issues for construction type site, and then sanitation issues. Because they had four trailers out there. Employees living in them. For a temporary work zone, is that normal? Is that, you know, allowed? Is that
Where is it at?
3 miles. You're north of Basin, but they're just like you, right? So that'd be like 3 miles north of Benson, roughly, or 2.
2.5. They probably lease some land from a farmer. I haven't been up there, you know,
They did.
probably 2 or 3 acres just to put their 20.
Yeah. Because, what, FEMA housing. And there's housing, people. And actually, I don't know what the ordinances are for what. They're a whole new area.
Sorry, I mean, when you say they're living in trailer, like camping trailers or like,
Probably looks like a little RV park. No, I know, it's not RVs, but they don't have foundations or anything. They didn't build foundations or trailers. I mean, they're movable.
Yeah.
You just move them in and out. So they're movable. So it's not like they're fat
Each
foundations.
one came out.
Yeah, then they dump them. They're like a pod, probably almost. I'm envisioning. It's a gray area. It's all part of their project.
First of all, that they done 3,000 foot. And then they plug that one right next to it. 6,000. He said, these are just test wells, so they come under a different statute than having actual exploration well. I don't know how they did it. They did have to get a permit for each one of them.
So is that all dictated by the state, or does the county have something to say, or is it basically the state?
I don't know.
They don't have any regulations written on this. You know, it's part of a construction project that's going on. They're staging the area. And it happens to be a permitted use.
would it be
So,
mineral extraction? It would technically be mineral extraction. 'cause
and
they're looking
they're
for-
not building permanent structures and stuff like that. So there would be a building permit.
We require building permits for temporary construction trailers on that like, what's out by Duncombe, what's that called?
Those are trailers, those are structures.
Oh, yeah, but they're temporary ones, so that's why I'm wondering.
No,
Are
I mean,
they,
they're.
are they similar to what,
Those are moving.
but that's what's being put out there for temporary structures when construction's going on out at,
Those are more long term, 10, 15 years. I think.
yeah, that's what I was getting ready to ask for too. Where's,
I don't know where. There's 3 semis on one full time. You know, I really don't know where it was. That's a more long measure.
when Coke has building,
So.
like doing expansions, they have
Three
trailers.
semis on water.
There was so much stuff up, I couldn't tell if there were porta potties. There may have been those construction type ones that are set up. I don't know. I'm sure there was some sort of a bathroom facility for trailers. But like I said, my issue was, that
I don't know what we would,
sanitation.
I mean, it's temporary, number one, it's gonna eventually go away, who knows how long. 1, 2, 3 years, it'll be gone.
And I, obviously where the landowner is, has the right to do whatever he wants to do with his land. The setup that I saw out there by itself is one thing. If there were 7 of them all around, that's gonna be a different story. And maybe before our next meeting, Jeff, maybe we could have the opportunity to maybe to take a look and just give us your thoughts on it.
Okay.
And make sure if it's something that's going to continue happening, if there's anything to address, whether it's sanitation issues or safety issues.
Well, and from my end too, I need to know where their wastewater is going, because if they're putting it in a septic system, it was never permitted. If they're just dumping it, I mean. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, if they have a pump truck coming out. Yeah.
Water. don't know where the human consumption.
Perfect for light duty for you. Get in the car.
Yeah.
That is perfect. Well, if you would agree to do that, Josh.
Yeah, we'll go,
thank you.
we'll go out there and look at it, yeah.
We have to go out there.
Thank
That's
you.
up there.
It's up there. Okay,
But maybe we can have you take a look at it. Like I said, if it's gonna be an ongoing thing or if it's something new to the county that we should.
yeah, I'll get some details on it.
Yeah.
Actually, every one of the supervisors, last few meetings, they were there.
Okay.
She's the one who gave out pretty much.
We're ready for you to propose to her.
So they were interested in setbacks. They have their own personal setbacks. Mile. They were wondering if they keep drilling. what setbacks it would be. That's why they were there. They brought up. Somebody here before that.
Drawing setbacks.
But we really don't have any restrictions or guidelines or rules when it comes to drilling or exploration or whatever. Pipe or water, any of that. Do other counties have that kind of stuff?
Well, we have a nuisance ordinance. I'd have to dig into that a little bit, if there's something in there on vibration or. I doubt it because we don't even address noise in this county. We don't even have a noise ordinance, you know what I mean? So.
Just when you see the stuff like in Texas and Oklahoma, they dig wells and do it. Now they're finding all the issues that they're having. Wells properly capped and stuff like that. We read about if that's something, not that we're there yet, but if it should be something on our minds just to look and see what we're dealing with. If for some reason they're going to be popping up drilling sites all over.
Be concerned with the lighting. How close they were to any mining facilities. There's something about the water down there. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, but I sure want to ask an expert. You know, I guess it's something that Jeff, maybe if it's something we need to get ahead of. See what the thoughts are.
It's true. They have a geologist on site. In fact, gets bored and starts walking around a mile around our place and this guy, he's made it out. Every so many feet that take samples. Of course, that's any well that's drilled, that's all that information goes to the out of the field. That's back in the 60s, they were looking for underground storage of gas. That's where it came up. It's every well that they drilled had a log on it. Some wells showed that they had hydrogen. So these people, now that Obama's doing a new deal with all the new tenants, showed up, everybody's trying to find some way to capitalize on this. This is one of them. I had one kid call me, and one guy from one company called me and said that there's a well on one of your properties that shows it's quite a bit of hydrogen. He said, you want to partner with me to go for hydrogen? That's fine. I said, but what are we going to do with hydrogen? He said, well, we're going to put it on a semi and we're going to truck it to California. And that defeats the whole Green New Deal. But California, a few years ago, only allow hydrogen in cars.
I just think it might be something we can look out ahead in the future and make sure that we have some idea so we're covered, so we don't just get into we should have done something better. That's my opinion.
I agree. I think because of the fact that our county already has so much mining going on, we're very careful of our mining industry. I think somebody's out there just really randomly without any sort of oversight, I guess. But I would hate to see the two cause problems for each other. So,
They have signed leases. Well, all over, like, ranging all the way almost halfway to downtown. Almost down. It's much bigger than the actual, you know, what's supposed to be, yes. Abandoned area. The lease is $200 a year per acre. That's 50% more. I was just looking for the high natural gas aspect for us.
I feel like we're living in Texas with oil or something. It's like,
like I said, my concern is if they bust through something and it affects one of the lines and, you know, safety standpoint, I don't hurt that. But I think you're right. I think, you know, just you have nothing else to do, right? You have nothing else going on right now.
yeah.
If maybe we need to be looking into this.
Does the
I'm just-
DNR have to monitor any of this?
I'm
That's
just
what I'm
wondering.
wondering.
I was more, I'm wondering if it's more of a statement.
I can
You know, I
double,
mean, I don't think this is something that you want to do. To me, it's more of a private issue between these guys. And the farmers. I mean, really, I mean, it needs to be worked out. Why would local government get involved in adopting, you know, and just bogging ourselves down with that stuff? And, you know, you have national, you know, you got all this EPA, you got all those other regulatory, you know, agencies out there. And we, you know, knowing that we can't trump them, you know, they gotta comply with whatever they do. To me, it's more of a private issue with the farmer and who's ever doing whatever on the property.
Oh, so
I mean, I'm all for
it's a
protection.
traffic issue.
What's
And
that?
a road issue and a traffic issue, and then it is our county's problem, because it's our tax dollars that are going to fix roads and like that.
They have the right to go ahead and do that. I mean, let them go out there and drill for hydrogen. Let them do it. As long as the farmer allows them to do it. And the farmer can say, go away, you know, just like windmills. I don't want you on my property. Go away.
But if you end up having more trucks going back and forth than you thought, that's, you know, I mean, maybe, like I said, maybe we should look at this.
We can.
Late night reading for you.
That's pretty boring stuff, to be honest with you. It's like,
I would appreciate it. I would definitely appreciate it.
but I feel sorry for the farmer with all the stuff that they're going through with it. Stuff, farming's, you know, all this stuff going on in their lands, you know, these easements and all this crap nowadays, you know.
Well, and this is how it starts.
Huh?
This is how it starts.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, there's no oversight to that. Well, that's what the state or the federal, and we're not even gonna look into that, and that's what happens. That's how it started up. And I think.
Well, why would we middling that? That's we start middling it to ourselves, and it's like, okay, then we're just pointing fingers at everybody, and it's just like,
But if we're drilling at 6,000 feet,
that's not right.
well,
You know,
you said 3,000 or 6,000 feet. How many people around those areas could that affect their wells and drinking water?
Yeah.
Or just north of Benson.
No, it will. But that doesn't, that comes into more of a state. I'm guessing they're getting a permit from the state. For that. They're gonna drill that.
that's why I'm wondering, and I'll double check with, Eric Day. He's in charge of the wells with the DNR to see if these permits are coming from the DNR, where they're coming from.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
mean,
I can double check with them.
And like if the DNR, if you call and say the DNR's got this, they know, you know. they
Then
set
it's
up,
theirs.
have these
Yeah,
things,
then it's theirs. You guys, they can have it.
When they
Yeah.
come back, oh, then.
Mhm.
Then that's what we should say.
Oh, I agree.
Hey,
Yeah, I
we just
agree.
need to find out who's monitoring you, and if we find out who does, then at least we'll know the answer.
Mhm.
My personal-
Makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. I would think there's something in place, but yeah.
Public comes in with more questions. I'll suggest you have looked into, you kind of have an idea of what's going on. Permits are in place. That type of thing. I mean, I feel right now that I don't know if you about it after driving out there and taking a look at it. It does look like a small little city out there. And yeah,
You know, yeah, when we first started drilling, you know, seeds, that's it. Hopefully you're not using, you know, well water that you're drilling there, or you don't use within, it's thousands of gallons a day, you know. Well, the next day I stayed 3 seconds.
Oh, jeez.
Water. So. See what's wrong. Water, some other.
I would appreciate it.
Looks like it's salty, yeah. It'll be field style borehole, which that includes, no. Cathodic connection wells, that's the ones that are. No, yeah. That's what that's.
So if you will make the phone calls and please find out. Let
Yeah.
them and see it.
Well, and see if they even have them, because I mean, they very well couldn't, even have them. So yeah, I can call them tomorrow. I'm on light duty, so I'll be in the office all day.
Well, we would appreciate it. And then we'll get next meeting again.
Yeah, I can.
And if anyone has anything else they'd like to add, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. All right, do I have a second? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.
I just don't want you to get bored of work.